Mark Carney gives up on the election. So let's see what's that about.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Well. It looks like old Mark Carney's thrown in the towel. He took his ball and he went home. Has he quit altogether? No. But he's showing that he's almost giving up. He's rolling over here. Pierre Poilievre is just too much for Mark Carney to handle. We're going to get into that. Before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, as this campaign isn't 100% over yet, I'm going to remind everybody, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please hit that button. I know everybody gets sick of me throwing it in at the beginning of a video, but it's important for those new coming in to understand that the liberals are paying, they're making sure that all content is suppressed, that nothing gets out. They only want your eyes on mainstream media.
Okay, well, sorry, I'm not... You know how am I with pausing, right? Well, Mark Carney, liberals, and mainstream media. I would just like to remind you how Mark Carney pretty much offered 150 million bribe to CBC, right? And we all know CBC is already a liberal bias, and I would be surprised if they didn't try to help liberals to win election, because obviously one of the conditions was we need to win election, and then we're going to fund you by 150 million. I think it was actually $150 million a year for CBC and Radio Canada, which to me is just ridiculous, because legacy media are, let's be honest, legacy media are dying. It's outdated platform, and it's their own fault because of all of the political bias and censoring free speech and pretty much working for the government, right? Like the new generation since COVID, we just don't believe mainstream media. Like, yes, we might watch the news from mainstream media, but then we go to check some other platforms to just double check if we've been lied again or no. Anyway, let's continue.
Videos, depending on the subject on this channel as well as others, are getting completely censored and hammered. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, not just on this channel, but every Canadian content political creator that you follow here on the platform. Make sure you follow them. Turn on your bell for all notifications on every channel so that you can be notified every time we drop new content for you to take in, so that you're getting the news that's important to you before this election takes place. That being said, make sure to also leave a like and a comment down below.
I love that
helps
message.
Push us past YouTube censorship.
Please follow,
algorithm.
subscribe.
With that
like
said,
if
let's
you
get
like.
into what's happening with Mark Carney, because it's hilarious.
Leave the comment with feedback.
If you didn't know, he was in Hamilton.
Everything. And the same thing
he was in
Hamilton
Fringe last night.
Give him a subscribe.
And things didn't go well
for
Mark Carney. In fact, people were talking about, oh my God, I had people tweeting me, Fringe, Mark Carney's got lineups of people outside. There's all these people outside. Well, we're going to talk about that. Anti-Taxer, another great Twitter account, by the way. Good to follow at Maple Blooded. Something definitely went wrong for Mark Carney in Hamilton. There have been no posts about the long line to get into the rally from his account or the Liberals' account. Only Rebel News, Joe Warmington, and Karima Rules reported on it. Why? Well, it looks like the long line of people was full of folks who didn't want Mark Carney there. They didn't. They were there to protest. They didn't want Mark Carney in Hamilton.
Sorry for Mark Carney.
He was relentlessly heckled for 2 full minutes while trying to deliver his speech, which was god-awful, by the way.
Ooh.
What is going on with this guy? Didn't his campaign tell the media he was pausing his campaign to deal with tariffs again? Then he appears in Hamilton.
Tariffs?
They're trying to tell us this disaster is going to win a bigger majority than Trudeau won. This is why I keep...
Well, it's easy. Like I mentioned before, Mark Carney based his election on President Trump. And since President Trump paused the tariffs, obviously not all of them, just some of them, and at the same time, Mark Carney is not really dealing with automobile tariffs or steel tariffs. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they paused those as well. I doubt that. But yeah, since he's not really dealing with it, he has nothing else to talk about. Like if it's not President Trump, then it's bust. Like he started, or the Liberal Party started, literally copying the Conservatives Party. It's like, oh, we're gonna axe the taxes as well. Oh, we're gonna do the housing. Oh, we're gonna do this and this and this. And it's like, well, why didn't you do it like within these 10 years? And like, why are you talking about it now? You still have not a month now, but still 17 days to do something about it. So do something about it. Give people reason to vote you again. Because like after 3 terms, promise is not a reason enough. Like we need to show some of your actions. I mean, we need to see some of your actions, something that was actually good for Canadians, and not just depend on your promises again. Pardon me, it's just ridiculous.
Keep saying you can't believe the mainstream media, you can't believe the polls, you can't believe any of this. We talked about the tariffs. We talked about how it's been paused. We've talked about how this is likely because of the American financial situation, the stock market and everything else. We talked about, go back and watch that video. We talked about how all of this is on hold until a new prime minister is elected so that USMCA can be renegotiated. And that will end the tariffs. So essentially the tariff war is done.
Yeah.
Mark Carney has to find a new villain. He can't keep hammering Donald Trump.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I was saying as well. Like Mark Carney, after his phone call with Donald Trump, was like, oh yeah, after the elections, we're going to make a deal. Like it was a very, very good conversation, very good phone call. And it's like, dude, anyone who's going to get elected is going to make a deal. It's not just liberals. It's not just Mark Carney. Like even if NDP somehow, by some miracle, won the majority and Jagmeet Singh would be a new prime minister, he would deal with tariffs. He would make a deal with US. Obviously, like whoever gets elected is going to deal with President Trump and make a new contract new contract, right? New deal.
What's funny about it, I'm not going to bear you down to this video because his ums and ahs are terrible. But let's start out where things went wrong. Watch as Mark Carney gets heckled. Now this again was right at his his rally, if you can even call it that, in comparison to what Pierre Poilievre has. This is where he gets heckled over island visits. People are asking here if he's a PDF file. Some computers have a lot of PDF files. If you've ever used Adobe, we all know about PDF files. There's a lot of islands south of the border that housed multiple PDF files.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a look at here. What Mark Carney had to put up with last night. Let's take a look.
President Trump's trade war has literally ruptured the global economy. And I'm afraid our... Let's get it right.
Now, keep in mind that Rebel News has reported on this. They've had a truck outside of Mark Carney's rallies asking, what about his relationship with certain people he's been photographed with, where Mark Carney said, well, those people, it's the same as him talking about other individuals of question. Well, I can't help who comes into the room. I can't help who's there talking amongst themselves. First he said, I'm an outsider. Then he said he's a politician. Now he's saying, look, a lot of people want to be around me. This happened on his property.
Whoa.
His sister-in-law is directly connected via documents. Again, shout out to David at Moose on the Loose. We talked about that in another video as he uncovered the list. And this guy tries to pretend, I don't know them. I have nothing to do with them. He deserves to get heckled for this.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous. Like, you think Jeffrey Epstein would just approach him and being like, hey, I want a picture with you? or Giselle Maxwell or whatever her name was. Like, does he really think he's that important to these people, to this kind of people, the people who hang out with like royalty from UK, the presidents from US, all of these like crazy rich people? Do you really think that they would approach Carney asking for the picture? Or not even asking for the picture, but like that they would approach Carney? Come on, that's ridiculous. And yeah, like I'm sorry if he's connected to Jeffrey Epstein or Giselle Maxwell. Like, what are we talking about? He should resign. He should have never even tried to go for election. Like, he should just hide somewhere and hope that no one will find out. But no, he's gonna lie about it, even though that you have a picture with him and Giselle Maxwell or whatever was her name. Like, ridiculous. And now obviously they found a connection that there actually is something going on. And yeah, again, I just hope that the people see this before they go for election, before they go vote. Like, really, people of Canadians need to make informed decision on who to vote. Like, don't, again, like, if COVID didn't teach you something, don't trust just mainstream legacy media. You need to do your research. You need to compare your sources.
Look. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, is he gonna react to that or
Thank
no?
you. I can do it. I gotta do it. We're gonna do it.
No, you can't.
We can do it. That's the question for the next 2.5 weeks.
Who's we?
We need to do it because.
What you did to the children on
Come on.
That's all you have? Come on.
So the boomers, and forgive me for any of our boomer generation audience, the sheeple boomer audience continues to
Yikes.
chant for Mark Carney because, well, quite frankly, they're stupid. They don't know what they're. They've either been paid to be there or they're stupid. It's one of.
Stupid is a strong word. I think that's the generation of people who believe mainstream media, a generation of people who just refused the progress or the direction the world's going, right? The people who are just stuck by how it was like 30 years ago when, I don't know how it was 30 years ago with liberals, but let's say back then maybe they were good people, right? Maybe they had a good values, and I believe that. Like, I'm from Czech Republic, right? After we got rid of communism, or after we stopped being occupied by Russia, we put all our eggs into pretty much Democratic Party, and they did a lot of good. Like, they fought for democracy, and like, it was pretty good. I don't know what happened with all of the democratic parties around the world, but somehow 10 years ago they all went cuckoo with DEI, woke stuff, and all of it. And yeah, but like I'm saying, I wouldn't call boomers or this specific boomer stupid. Like, it's just people who kind of refuse the progress, people who are bad with computers, people who believe to legacy media. Yeah, it's sad, or yeah, maybe you're right. It's stupid people who prefer red color over blue color, right? And they vote based on that, which is ridiculous. But yeah,
One of the two. What's funny is that just to put context on it, heckled twice in a matter of about a minute.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Somebody posted, here's his response.
Come on.
Here's his response. Let's give fair game. Let's hear his response, because he says that it's conspiracy theory, even though certain individuals that I'm not going to name because of censorship were on his property and photographed talking with him and his wife that are directly linked to his sister-in-law.
You know, it's interesting. Earlier today, I'll get back to Trump and trade and everything, because we can't avoid it. But
we can't avoid it. There's nothing there. It's done, Mark. It's done. It's paused. You can't. I know people are going to say, Fringe, those tariffs are still in place on certain things. That's all for the renegotiation. There's no more threat of trade war. You can't use Trump as a villain any longer.
Base the campaign.
He's agreed to
Trump
renegotiate.
Anymore.
Oh, we'll get back to Trump and trade. I need to keep all you guys on TDS to make sure, if you don't know what TDS is, Trump Derangement Syndrome, I got to make sure you guys are all focused on Trump so you vote for me.
Oh, man.
Give me a break, Mark.
earlier today, we announced a series of measures on crime. And we announced a series of measures with respect to online harm and other factors. And one of the observations we had, one of the issues we're dealing with, there's many serious issues that we're dealing with respect to crimes of violence, conjugal violence, drugs, fentanyl, others. But one of them is with respect to really just the sea of misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, conspiracy theories, this sort of pollution that's online that washes over our virtual borders from the United States.
So right there is what should make everybody shit their pants.
So we're going
This is what we've been warning everybody. It's the same reason I tell you to subscribe.
Speech.
Mark Carney pivots the trolling and states that, hey guys, we've noticed a lot of troublesome things online. And so it's not just
take off your
discussions about what's happening for me or what's happening anywhere else. It's harmful. We need to censor that. That's what he's talking about.
There we go. Yeah.
If you think Bill C-63 was bad, what Mark Carney's talking about here is essentially the same thing that's happening in other countries that I can't even mention because the idea of even mentioning them
that's bad.
Gets you thrown off of the platform. We've seen it happen to Celtic Canuck. She covered one video, all of her side channels, her channel itself, deleted, removed. So I can't even mention those countries that are heavy in censorship. Mark Carney's wanting to turn Canada into that. They've already said, because of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they want to make X illegal in Canada.
What?
They want to censor it out completely.
Oh my God.
But content creators on YouTube, like myself, like the pleb, like Moose on the Loose, like Clinton Jaws, we're all going to be gone. We're all going to be completely wiped off the face of the earth because you need to get your news from the government's extended mouthpiece, the liberal paid prostitute media.
CBC News.
This is why Mark Carney's dangerous for Canada. But it's not just Mark Carney that's dangerous for Canada. What's funny in all of this is that he got eviscerated so badly by people in Hamilton. Keep in mind, this is a very critical area for votes coming up in the federal election. So hopefully the heckling and the long lines of people paints a picture as to what we can expect in the federal election. We need to keep the pressure on. It says here that Carney now takes his third campaign pause and says Trump's trade war raises the stakes. Again, there's nothing. It's a nothing burger. He's taken his ball and gone home. He can't compete with Pierre. He doesn't like that people are lining up at his rallies not to support him, but to heckle him. Look at what's here in this article. Again, this is from Global News. So, mainstream paid shill prostitutes. Prime Minister Mark Carney is pausing his federal election campaign for a third time to tackle Donald Trump's escalating global trade war.
What a global trade war?
Carney is campaigning as liberal leader but retains caretaker authorities as the current prime minister during a federal election said he will return to Ottawa to convene a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. Relations and National Security officials on Friday. Again, that paragraph, very crucial. This is
Okay, this is just so ridiculous because he literally announced that he's not going to sign any new trade deal before election. So what is he dealing with? Like, unless he's really going to sign the new trade deal before April 28th, This is all just bunch of bullshit. It's literally like he said, like I said, liberals based election campaign on President Trump, which for them it was very huge gift because they had nothing else to base it on, right? And then President Trump started with tariffs, and out of nowhere, liberals ran on it. And according to the polls, which I don't really believe were correct, because again, who's participating in the polls? Well, it's gonna be the people who watch the legacy media, so obviously it's gonna go a little bit red. But anyway, since President Trump paused the tariffs for 90 days, Mark Carney has nothing to talk about for campaign, and he's saying that he's working on it even though it's paused for 90 days. Like, it's ridiculous. And again, I hope people will see through it.
Custodial position. Caretaker. Mark Carney can't pass any laws. He can't make any bills. He can't promise anything. He can't do anything. He's crippled.
Yeah.
So why is he going back to Ottawa? Why is he making it sound like it's official government business? It's not. This elitist is going back because he doesn't like the beating that he's taking on the campaign trail. It says this comes after Trump paused his so-called reciprocal tariffs for 90 days on dozens of countries, facing higher rates than his 10% baseline. Now, what's funny about this, and again, I understand people are going to...
You know what? My guess, and it's going to be very mean from me to say, I think Mark Carney is working on the plan B. On the plan B when the Liberals won't get elected, and he's going to go back to Brookfield, right? They just bought the biggest pipeline in the US. So he's probably just figuring out how to get back in there and make the most money he can, even with the Conservatives ruling in Canada. Well, obviously he's gonna make most money from US. That's where he moved the headquarters, right? But that's just my guess, that he's working on the plan B and whatever, right? He never cared about Canadians, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just gave up the election. And again, like I said it multiple times, and it was mentioned over here, like Mark Carney is still liberal candidate. Like, nothing's gonna change with this new face of the Liberals. It's still the same party, still the same values, still gonna be shitty for Canadians. Like, if I'll be honest, full on.
Say a lot of those tariffs stayed in place in Canada. I get that aspect of it, but we're less than 3 weeks away from the election and then renegotiation.
Yep.
What Trump did was take himself out of the running to be the villain and the reason behind why people would vote for the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Like, look, at this point, since President Trump paused the tariffs, it would be irresponsible for Liberals to sign the New Deal. And I know it's going to sound a little bit against what I said earlier, but let's talk about it. Right now, we're not facing the tariffs. So there's no urgency unless we're talking about automobile tariffs or steel coal or steel tariffs, right? But other than that, there's no urgency. So if he somehow, but he's not going to do it, if he would sign the deal right now, it's irresponsible. Again, it might go against Canadians because there might be someone else who can negotiate better deal, right? Whoever gets elected might negotiate better deal. But again, that's not going to happen because obviously they're not working on it, especially now when they're not pressured to work on it, unless he's going to behave like old President Biden, right? Who just did everything he could to make it harder for President Trump, like allowing Ukraine to use the US missiles on the Russian soil, which was crazy. And the whole world is lucky that Russia didn't react differently than they did. But anyway, let's continue.
Pierre Poilievre even came out and said, you know, isn't it funny? Mark Carney said he had a discussion with Donald Trump, that things were great. It was a very
Yep.
Successful, we'll say a successful conversation. Please don't quote me verbatim. But then he says, well, look at everything that's still here. Look at what it's doing to our steel workers. Look at what it's doing to our auto sector. You call that a good conversation? You call that progression?
But nothing happened.
Sorry, my
Not
goodness.
until election.
The Lysdexia today, folks. Canada was not included on that.
That's what I was saying, right? Like, we don't face the other tariffs. We face the automobile and steelworker tariffs. That's what they're supposed to deal with. That's where they can actually strike the New Deal before election, because that's the industry that's suffering thanks to the, well, yeah, this one is thanks to the tariffs, right? So that's what he's supposed to focus on, and not wait till the election, but strike the deal right now. Because you know how many people's losing the jobs, how much money Canada's losing because of this, and yet somehow they don't care. They want to wait until election, which is ridiculous. And this gentleman said, right? Like, that's something that needs to be solved. And like Pierre Poilievre said, like, how was it successful when those tariffs are still there and we're still not dealing about the New Deal? Just ridiculous.
A list of countries to face reciprocal tariffs, but does face 3 other sets of tariffs imposed in the last 6 weeks. 25% general U.S. export tariffs on non-CUSMA compliant goods, 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum exports, and 25% auto sector tariffs. Again, what they're not mentioning here was they said it was still yet to be negotiated on the auto sector tariffs as to what parts were Canadian, what parts were American, how they come to an agreement on what's going out for what. Trump said his pause, announced hours after his global tariff policy took effect midnight Wednesday, will bring the tariff rate down to 10% for all countries facing reciprocal tariffs except for China, which as of Wednesday faces a staggering 125% levy on all goods exported to the U.S. after retaliating further in the ever-involving trade war. So I'm not going to cover this in depth because what we're talking about here is the mainstream media trying to paint a picture, again, orange man bad. This is all Trump's fault. Trump made Carney go off the campaign trail. He's taken the L. He's losing. He can buy all the polls he wants. He can stand with Mike Myers and chant about elbows up as long as he wants, but it looks like the voting public, for the most part, the majority of the voting public, seem to be waking up. You can't hide from reality. You can censor media. You can buy up all the propaganda you want. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think when people go to the polls in this election, there's more than just virtue signaling. There's more than woke DEI policy at stake here. I think what's at stake is people's bank accounts, their affordability, and their wallets. People are going to have to vote based on what they can afford. And quite frankly, I don't think many Canadians, unless you're an elite billionaire like Mark Carney, can afford to continue living in a liberal government-raised Canada with corruption at the helm and globalists trying to pummel the country into non-existence. At the very least, if Mark Carney were to win this election, it spells trouble for Confederation. And I'm not going to get into that. I'll get into that in another video. But let me know what you guys think, ladies and gentlemen. Are you surprised to see Mark Carney hide again, go back and claim that it's Donald Trump, even though it isn't? Are you surprised to see Mark Carney taking the L on the campaign? What do you think about getting heckled over his island visits? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If it's your first time here, I hope this video again has earned your subscription. Make sure to share this out on social media, folks. Hit that like button, throw a comment in, turn your bell on for all notifications so that you're notified every time new videos drop here on the channel. Make sure to join me live tonight and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show, where I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe, as we go back and forth talking about everything that happened this week in politics, everything that happened or is going to happen that we're aware of, as well as back and forth with the greatest YouTube community on this platform. I always look forward to sitting inside of those live streams to hear what you have to say outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go cure my Lisdexia, and I'm going to hope that you have a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, that was a good video. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely subscribing. Let's just put it on the background over here. But yeah, anyway, so thoughts on this video. The guy's right. The Fringe is right. This is the first time I saw anything from him, and yeah, I can't more than agree. Obviously, we're both conservative, right? So that helps a lot. But let's talk about liberals. Let's talk about Mark Carney. Let's talk about what we saw, what we heard. So let's start with the big scary thing that Mark Carney kind of mentioned, and that's that he's pretty much, if he gets elected, he's gonna go against freedom of speech, right? Which is crazy. Like, we saw that happening in the US, we saw that happening in Canada during COVID, when you pretty much had no freedom of speech. A lot of your human rights, just in general, were kind of limited. And we don't want to go back. And we don't want to go back only because liberals got elected and because of the crazy wokeness and DEI that liberals are trying to push through. Like, let's not forget Mark Carney, when he found out that President Trump is gonna pretty much shut down the whole DEI in the US. Mark Carney said that we're gonna go even harder to support DEI and the wokeness in Canada. And that's something ridiculous for me to hear, because that's pretty much saying you're going to support discrimination. If you don't know my stance on DEI by now, I'm still going to explain it. It's something I like to talk about. So DEI, the idea of DEI is great, but the way the government's pushing it is ridiculous. It's pretty much just discrimination. It's literally, they're putting people into these certain groups, and some of the groups have higher chance, or not chance, but have a privilege, let's say, for the hiring process, and even in everyday life. Like, if you don't agree with that group, somehow you're gonna be called all of these different names, and your reputation will go down, you're gonna get canceled, you might get fired, and all of this, right? Which is ridiculous. For me, the most ridiculous thing is when you're applying for the job, there's literally a section asking you if you're members of some of these groups. And it's like, why? Why is it there? What's the other reason than discrimination? Like, what's the other reason than that you want to discriminate me based on this? So you should invite me for the interview based on my merit, based on my resume, based on my experience, which is pretty much resume, right? Education, all of this. Like, based on if you think I'm a good candidate or no. But this little section on the application gives you I'm not going to say right, but gives you an opportunity to discriminate me, which is ridiculous. Like, you're going to find out about me on the interview, right? But thanks to this section, you're not even going to invite me for the interview. Which, again, it's just ridiculous. Like, we should be hiring based on merit. And like I said, the idea of the DEI is pretty good. But the way you should go about DEI is literally hiring based on the merit. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter your sexual orientation. And that's the craziest thing. Like 10, 20 years ago, when you even talk about sexual orientation at work, you're going to go visit HR. And right now it's something that's discussed and it's considered kind of like positive, unless you're heterosexual. Does DEI literally stands for discrimination EI? I don't know. Example, right? It's ridiculous. Like we need to get rid of it. Like, and another thing is like when you don't agree with, let's say, someone getting hired only because the company needed certain percentage of DEI hires, they're gonna call you all of these like derogatory names, like that you have hate towards this group of the people. No, that's not true. Like, again, hire based on merit, and the best candidate should win. Doesn't matter into which, and this itself sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't matter into which group they belong. And that's the biggest issue. Like, they shouldn't be groups at all, right? We're all people, and again, the best one should get the job. Doesn't matter his background. And like, I was thinking about it today. I'm a gamer, right? So lately was a lot of DEI in the games and movies and everywhere. You saw it, right? When they push some character into the game or movie, but the whole backstory or the whole character of the person is literally based on this group. So it's nothing like, oh, this is the life's experiences, blah blah blah, and let's say, what should we say? For example, so let's say, for example, it's immigrant, right? So they base the whole character on being immigrant, and there's literally nothing, no backstory behind it. And that's pretty much how the hiring and how DEI works, and it's ridiculous. Like, they literally simplify people to be characterized by this group. So it's not like, let's say I'm immigrant, Caucasian heterosexual male, so there's no DEI for me. But let's say there would be some DEI, right? So I have obviously some life story experiences and everything. Like, yeah, Czech Republic, lived in some other country, worked as flight attendant, drove a haul truck for 2 months, and like a lot of experiences somewhere else, right? Like personal trainer, worked out in Gold's Gym, but like a lot of things about me, right? Married, dog lover, whatever. But what they do is that they would literally just characterize me as an immigrant, and that's all. That's how it is in games. That's how it is in the movie. Like, they literally belittle the person and make this group their whole character, which is ridiculous. And that's why DEI is wrong. And we got a little bit sidetracked from politics. Kind of, maybe, no. Whatever. So anyway, so DEI, freedom of speech. Mark Carney, obviously, he full on said it. Like, that he's going to attack freedom of speech. Which, again, we experienced it during the COVID, and it should never come back. Like, it's bad for everyone. Then again, he's for DEI, wokeness, bad thing, right? And let's talk about it. Again, he's liberal, got elected by liberals. They're not going to change their values. Like, they elected him for a reason. They're not going to elect anyone who's, or not even elect, like choose as a leader of the political party. They're not going to choose anyone who's going to go against the actual political party, right? And let's not forget, he was advisor to Justin Trudeau. So that's another thing, another big red flag, literally red flag, right? What else? Well, then his connection to those two people regarding PDF files. What else? Brookfield, when he lied that he wasn't behind the move from Toronto to New York, which I think they even found some signatures that proved that he was behind this move. So again, not very like Canadian behavior, especially from someone whose prime minister literally took the tax money from Canada gave it to US just to avoid tariffs, right? It's a good business move, but again, if you're Canadian Prime Minister, kind of conflict of interest. And again, look, carbon tax, he still has some shares in Brookfield, so he's still connected to that. Brookfield in US, they bought a pipeline. And over here, Mark Carney is refusing to repeal or revoke or whatever the word is, the Bill C-69. So he's literally preventing Canada to improve their economy by building more pipelines. Over here, he's basing it on environment, which again, Brookfield invested a lot into environment. So again, somehow he's going to make money either way, right? And carbon tax. Let's talk about carbon tax. First of all, he left the carbon tax for the industry, which, look, if the industrial carbon tax was scratched, the goods would be cheaper. Everything would be cheaper. So he just did the minimum just to kind of satisfy and distract people. So he didn't get rid of the carbon tax for the household purposes and just for the normal Canadians, right? He didn't get rid of it. He just zeroed it. The law is still there. He can literally on 29th, if the Liberals win again, he can literally decide, okay, now we're bringing it back, and it doesn't have to go through Parliament, Senate, nothing, right? So he didn't get rid of it, but yeah, unfortunately, not all Canadians know about it. They just see that gas got cheaper and all of it. But yeah, we're not gonna get too deep into everything else. But like I said, Liberals got their 3 terms, ran the country down, didn't do anything to improve economy. Allowed all of this DEI and already attacked freedom of speech, and Mark Carney is already talking about how he's gonna make it even worse. So like I said, before you go vote, just please make some research. Don't trust just legacy media, and like I keep saying, vote for change. Like one party, you can judge them based on actions for past 10 years. The other party, which is obviously conservatives, you can just trust their promise, which might not sound like the best idea, but that's the best we have, right? Like if you want to vote for change, you have to vote for conservatives and put our hope into them. And for me personally, doing my research, I believe in Pierre Poilievre. Obviously, I'm not naive. Obviously, he's probably not gonna manage to fulfill 100% of his promises, but I believe in Pierre Poilievre. And I would vote conservatives.